China's one-upmanship with the US on trade is raising global anxiety. Questions abound. What will happen to global supply chains that have been perfected over decades? Will prices rise? Will availability of critical materials itself become a huge challenge? China's recent export curbs on germanium and gallium only raises temperatures further. Let's see at how all of this impacts the world and especially India. Hello and welcome back to Business Matters of the Hindu with me, K. Bharat Kumar. In an escalating trade war with the West, especially the US, the Chinese government imposed export restrictions on two metals, germanium and gallium, that find use in the manufacture of semiconductors and solar panels. It's not a ban in a sense. Buyers will only have to apply for an export permit before they can trade in these metals. But it will eventually lead to lower exports from China. On its part, the Chinese are likely responding to export restrictions of the US, and the US's allies like the Netherlands have imposed on equipment that help make semiconductors. It will eventually impact China. It's interesting that recent media reports tag these two metals, germanium and gallium, along with another set of 17 elements referred to as REE or rare earth elements. Germanium and gallium do not belong to this set. The reason that all of these are referred to in the same breath is that this is not the first time that China has used trade as a weapon. In 2010, China imposed export restrictions on some elements that help make up semiconductors and all its exports to Japan, and Japan had to scramble for alternative supply chains to protect its semiconductor interests. The US Geological Survey says that most gallium is produced as a byproduct of processing bauxite, and the remainder is produced from zinc processing residues. The average gallium content of bauxite is 50 parts per million. Of significance is the fact that the US does not have any domestic output of gallium currently. It's a point that obviously did not miss the eye of the Chinese government. The gallium contained in world resources of bauxite is estimated to exceed 1 million tons, and a considerable quantity could be contained in world zinc resources, according to the agency. However, it points out that less than 10% of the gallium in bauxite and zinc resources is potentially recoverable. So much for gallium. Now, what about germanium? Germanium is a semiconductor material that finds applications in optics, infrared technologies, and other electronics. It is obtained predominantly from zinc and coal mining. The USGS says that on a global scale, as little as 3% of the germanium contained in zinc concentrates is recovered. Significant amounts of germanium are contained in ash and flue dust generated in the combustion of certain coals for power generation. Now let's come to the crux of the story. The reason that there is so much global anxiety around China's trade actions is because China clearly dominates global trade for these two metals and the rare earth elements. Let's see how. The chart on your screen shows output for rare earth elements for major contributing nations. Just look at the numbers. China is by far the leader. Its output in 2022 was more than 4 times the next largest, which is the US itself. Because the supply of rare earth elements has significant bearing in industries such as electronics and consumer technology, automotive industry, telecom, aerospace and defense, renewable energy, medical technology, and industrial automation, the hints that China has been dropping on squeezing supplies has the world sitting up and taking notice. Now let's look at global production data for the two metals specifically in question today, germanium and gallium. Germanium data from the USGS again shows China being by far the leader. US data has been withheld for corporate competitive purposes, according to the document. China's output was 95,000 kg, and its 2021 exports are estimated to have been 27,800 kg. Likewise, for gallium-2, China leads the way. Its output of 2021 stood at 420,000 kg, and other major producers together have an output of 10,000 kg. There's no comparison at all. In this instance, the US does not produce gallium. Now, does India produce any of these gallium, germanium, rare earth elements? Let's take a look. The Indian Bureau of Mines informs us, as of a report of September 2021, that even though there are abundant resources of bauxite in India, and bauxite is the source from which we can get gallium, So far, no production of gallium has taken place, at least in the recent past, in India, because it's not been economically viable. So far, only 2 manufacturing plants, namely Hindalco Industries plant at Renukut, UP, and National Aluminium Companies at its Damanjodi Alumina refinery in Odisha, have recovered gallium in the past, according to the Bureau. According to the report by the Bureau dated September 2021, NALCO, or National Aluminium Company, had plans to source environment-friendly technology to help extract gallium, and the plan was to have a 10-ton per year plant at its Damanjodi refinery in Odisha. How about rare earth elements? Where does India stand there? In December 2022, the Union Minister of State for Science and Technology as well as Earth Sciences, Jitendra Singh, said that India was not reliant on China for sourcing rare earth elements for its own use. In a written reply to a question in the Lok Sabha, the minister said capacity and capability in terms of mining, processing, extraction, refining and production of high, pure, rare earth oxides were adequately available in India. He added that the production of monazite, the primary source of rare earth mineral, is about 4,000 metric tons per annum in India. Note that monazite does not yield all rare earth elements, but some, including cerium, lanthanum, neodymium, praseodymium, samarium, and gadolinium, among the 17 REEs. Given all these geopolitical equations and given India's own aspirations to make its own semiconductors or to expand its electronics exports significantly, it may now make sense for India to incentivize investments into the country where such investments enable extraction of such critical metals or even rare earth elements from our ores. Australia, for instance, is one such potential trading partner for India in this context. We all know that in recent times, Australia's economic ties with China have soured, and iron ore exploration and mining is among the largest industries in Australia. The Institute of South Asian Studies, National University of Singapore, had in May 2021 said India possesses a vast coastline rich in minerals and is estimated to account for 6% of the world's rare earth reserves. However, the country only accounted for 1% of global rare earths production in 2020. Expertise and technological transfers from Australia can help India. How does Australia gain? Because mining firms from Australia can benefit via exploration rights to India's reserves. This is a safeguard for India because should the supply of REEs or rare earth elements to India get affected in the future, then this can help plug the gap. Before we wind down this episode, here are a couple of factoids from our Did You Know section. In December 2015, NALCO had signed an R&D agreement with, guess who? Chalico of China for separation of iron concentrate from red mud and extraction of gallium from Bayer's liquor. It's not clear what came of the alliance. We also saw that India has the capability to process 4,000 metric tons of monazite, but the actual capacity is 10,000 metric tons. Production by IREL, formerly Indian Rare Earths Limited, was capped as it was yet to receive mining leases, environment clearance, and other approvals as of December 2022. That's all we have for you in this episode. But we'd like to hear what you think of these changing geopolitical equations, India's aspirations for semiconductors, global supply chains changing, and so on. Leave your opinions in the comment section below. Until we meet again, have a lovely week ahead.